It's time for 24/24. First up, another indictment creating an election issue. This time, first son Hunter Biden indicted on gun charges as his father, President Biden, runs for re-election. The gun charge is now becoming the proverbial elephant in the room. A few of Biden's 2024 opponents are already talking about it. We begin with former President Donald Trump. You know that he has something to say. He took to Truth Social with a swipe, not just at the first son, but also at the president. Trump writing in part, quote, the gun charge is the only crime that Hunter Biden committed that does not implicate crooked Joe Biden. 1 down, 11 to go, end of quote. And also reacting to the Hunter Biden indictment, presidential candidate, former Texas Congressman Will Hurd took to X, tweeting about the new normal, quote, an entire generation of Americans are learning that indictments of former presidents or the family members of current presidents is normal. This can't be the new normal. America deserves better, end of quote. Now, on top of his son's news, President Biden also got hit with this, a very weak endorsement, if you call it that, from former Speaker of the House and California Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi. She was asked if Biden might change his mind and not run.
Do you think there's any chance he does not continue running?
I hope not. I hope not. I mean, this president...
David Ignatius recently came out saying he thinks the former president should not run.
Yeah, so that's one.
Now, that was the speaker with Anderson Cooper, but more bad luck for the president because Cooper did not stop there. He also asked Pelosi about Biden's running mate, Vice President Kamala Harris, and got what I characterize as a lukewarm response.
Well, Harris the best running mate for this president?
He thinks so, and that's what matters. And by the way,
you think so?
She's very politically astute.
But do you think she is the best running mate, though?
She's the vice president of the United States. So when people say to me, well, why isn't she doing this or that? I said, because she's the vice president. That's the job description. You don't do that much.
Moving on to another Democrat running for president, Marianne Williamson. She took to X, formerly Twitter, to give the American people a little campaign insight when it comes to running against former President Donald Trump. Williamson tweeted, quote, voters ask me, Miss Williamson, what is your strategy for beating Donald Trump? I say my strategy for beating Trump is to make him irrelevant and offer the American people so much more, end of quote. And like him or not, making Donald Trump irrelevant might be a heavy lift. He does take the oxygen right out of the room. Next up. That's right, we have a new political alert, the Politico grudge alert. It seems like all the candidates have them, so we may be hitting the button every night. And grudge of the night, Trump and Utah Senator Mitt Romney. As I reported during this hour yesterday, Romney announcing he will not be running for re-election for Senate in 2024. In his video announcement, he took swipes, a double grudge, at both Trump and Biden. So naturally, right after Romney's announcement, Trump could not resist. Trump took a victory lap on Truth Social, posting in part, quote, fantastic news for America, the great state of Utah, and for the Republican Party. Mitt Romney, sometimes referred to as Pierre Delecto, will not be seeking a second term in the U.S. Senate where he did not serve with distinction. Congrats to all, end of quote. By the way, why does Trump call Romney Pierre Delecto? Well, that was a fake name that Romney used to use on his Twitter account. Oh, there it goes again. This is such a busy night. We have another grudge alert. This time, it's former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's turn. Today, Christie went on CNN and was asked if he thinks Trump would weaponize the DOJ, Department of Justice, against his political opponents. You can probably guess what Christie had to say, but I'm going to let him tell you himself.
No one can run against him again. If he wins,
right,
he's only got one term left, and no one will be able to run against him again. But do I think Donald Trump would try to use the Department of Justice and a compliant attorney general to punish his political enemies? Sure.
Moving on, in 2024, Democratic hopeful is Robert F. Kennedy looking for a pen pal. Well, not exactly. But he did pen a letter to the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Jamie Harrison, and its members. The letter reads in part, quote, the DNC and the Joe Biden campaign have essentially merged into one unit financially and strategically, despite the promise of neutrality in its charter and bylaws. The DNC is not supposed to favor one candidate over another, end of quote. Will the DNC respond? My guess, no. Rarely are letters in D.C. ever answered, but stay tuned. And lastly, today, President Joe Biden delivered remarks on the economy just over the D.C. border in Largo, Maryland. His speech consisted of touting Bidenomics and slamming what he calls Meganomics. The speech occurring just shortly after the news breaking about Hunter Biden's indictment. Of course, after the speech, reporters wanted to know the president's reaction to the indictment. The president finished his Bidenomics speech and quickly said this.
Let me close with this. And there's a lot more I know we could talk about. I wish I had a chance to take all your questions, but I'm going to get in real trouble if I do that.
Politico White House and Washington reporter Daniel Lippman joins me. Well, what kind of trouble is he going to get to answering that question?
Yeah, this is not a president who likes to take tons of questions at news conferences, wide-ranging news conferences, because he actually, when he's at those news conferences, he goes on for a while, and his staff sometimes want to hold him back and say, hey, go off to your side, don't make any more trouble for us.
Well, he did that in Hanoi most recently, and I actually thought that that was not a good look, to have an unelected White House press secretary saying it's over and rolling the music over him. I thought it was humiliating.
They're always, this happened in the Trump administration, and basically every time you have the press pool in other administrations where they say, they bring in the press for a foreign leader meeting, and then they say, thank you, press, and they basically are ushering them out, even when Biden or Trump wants to take their questions. And of course, he can't even sometimes hear the questions because the White House press person is basically yelling at the reporters to leave the room.
All right, now let's go to the Speaker of the House. Not a heavy endorsement, I didn't think, of the president.
No, and also she doesn't seem to be talking too much about what Harris did, and is not singing her praises. And this is someone who has known Harris for a very long time, because Pelosi is from San Francisco, and Harris has spent a lot of time there.
I thought actually it was even worse than that, because it was a softball question in the sense that, not softball, I'm not saying Anderson Cooper's asked a softball question, but it was an easy one. What about Kamala Harris, the vice president? And instead of saying, well, she does have the portfolio of the border, which has been a disaster, so she couldn't talk about that one. But she describes her as not, like, what a great leader. She didn't say that. She said she's politically astute. And I thought, who votes for someone you think is politically astute? I thought that was a terrible thing to say about her.
Yeah, I also just don't think that a lot of Democrats would say that's accurate, because someone who is politically astute can read the room properly, is good at building coalitions, at finding wins as a vice president or just as any political office holder. And Harris has not gained more fans than the Democratic Party. Every day she loses them, it seems. And so that was basically almost some PR spin, it felt like, from Pelosi, who a lot of Democrats are also wondering, they expected her to be the last term, and yet she wants to kind of continue as the Speaker Emeritus, which is totally fine, but it almost overshadows Hakeem Jeffries, who is the House Minority Leader, a little bit.
There's so many people now, Democrats, are coming publicly or whispering about President Biden and thinking that maybe he shouldn't run again. What would they do about Vice President Kamala Harris with her low numbers? Would they run her?
I don't think they would want a competitive primary with maybe a dozen candidates, but it's
but how can they do that? We're running out of time to get on ballots. If you want to be on the New Hampshire ballot, you've got, I think, until the end of October.
It would not be. This would probably not be a primary where there's actually people are going out to states. This would be a convention fight, and so which I don't think, unless Biden has his health takes a big toll, unless he has some Mitch McConnell type episodes, he is in it for the long haul. I don't know how long he will actually serve a second term if he beats Trump. But it's also, Democrats, they are thinking most electable against Trump. But sometimes when you go most electable, they thought John Kerry was the most electable. Al Gore did not work out.
But if you put the two men up on a stage for the general election debate in their current health right now, no matter what the answers are, he's going to be overshadowed by the energy of Trump, and I think that hurts him. But anyway. Daniel Lippman, thank you.
Thanks, Greta.